Welcome to my guide on pivoting and transitioning. This is a crucial skill to master if you want to be able to play flexibly and be able to adapt your game plan as you go. In this video, we'll go over what positioning and transitioning is, when you should pivot, when you should transition, as well as going over how to clearly transition with some examples from my own games. The terms pivoting and transitioning are thrown around a lot. Pivoting means that you're going to play a certain comp, but then you decide that you want to play something else. Say you were playing Ashe and then decided to play Talon. Then you just pivoted from Ashe to Talon. Transitioning is when you are changing your board from one comp to another. To use our previous example, you transition from an Ashe board to a Talon board. You can pivot and transition in the same turn, or you can do it in different turns. A great example of where people pivot and transition a lot is on stage 4-1. Here most people sell their chosen and roll down. Most of the time, they have a comp in mind, but if they find a lot of units for a specific comp or a relevant chosen for a different comp, they often pivot to that comp in the middle of the roll down. So when should you pivot to another comp? There are a few things you need to look at before you decide. Your items, what chosen you have, how contested the comp is, and what units you have. At any given point in the game, you have good items for a comp, but not necessarily the comp you want to play. To keep our options open at all times, we generally slam flexible items, also known as items that fit into any comp. If all you have is flexible items, then you're not limited to a single comp, as your items can support any comp. What chosen you have matters, but also doesn't matter. If you have an Elderwood chosen, you most likely want to play Elderwoods, as it's a very good and easy top 4 comp. But if you have a Keeper Elise chosen, then you will sell that at some point to pick up a better one on a future rolldown. Another thing is how contested the comp is. Generally, reroll comps where you go for 3 stars like Moonlights and Duelists can only support one player. So if you are contesting, then there is a high chance that both of you bleed out before you hit your comp. So sometimes it can be worth to be the bigger man, so to speak, and pivot out to another comp. If not, it could result in you and the other player holding hands and going 7th and 8th place. However, most normal comps can only support 2 to 3 players at max, so you never want to play a comp if 3 other players are playing it. The only exception is if you have perfect items for a comp and most of the units, and or the comp is currently OP in the current meta. Generally, the units you have is not as important as the other 3 things mentioned, but it is still something to keep in mind. For example, if you found an early Ashe at around stage 2 or 3, then you are way more inclined to play a comp that uses Ashe as a carry, as you already have her. Again, this will depend a bit on your items, but if you found her early on, then you are guaranteed to have her. But if you're going another comp, then you're not guaranteed to hit the 4-cost carry. So when should you transition? The boring but correct answer is when your board post-transition is stronger than your board pre-transition. This basically means you don't want to transition into a weaker board. Sometimes you can run a random comp of whatever units you hit until level 9, where you transition into a comp with a bunch of legendaries. And sometimes you will transition from a mid-game comp into a 4-cost carry comp after you roll down on stage 4-1. It is very situational when it is correct to transition, so this will come from experience. Also know that you don't have to fully transition your board. Sometimes you can do a slow transition. Say for example you are running Brawlers with Kindred as your carry in the mid-game, and you are pivoting into Enlightened Talon later in the game. One thing you can do is replace Kindred with Talon after you roll and keep the Brawlers in. This is something you want to do if most of the Brawlers are 2-starred and the other units of your post-transition comp are 1-starred. When you have decided that you want to transition, this is how you want to do it. Step 1. Know which units you're keeping and which you're playing. Here it is crucial to already have the board in mind before you start the transition. This way, you're mentally prepared for what you're about to do. Step 2. Sell the champions you don't need and put in the units you need. Here positioning doesn't matter just yet. There are more important things to do first. Therefore, I always like selling my units by pressing E and putting in champions by pressing W on them to make it go faster. Step 3. Roll for upgrades and the rest of your team. This is important to do as one of the first things, as you can always place the items later. How much you roll will depend on the amount of gold you have and how many upgrades you need to hit, but generally you want to stop rolling when there are about 5 or 10 seconds left. Step 4. Position your units. You won't have time to scout if you're pulling off big transitions, so if this is the case, then just do general positioning. Don't worry too much about squeezing the max amount of value out of each champion. It is much more important to get the frontliners in the front and keep the backliners in the back. Once you are done positioning, either keep rolling or move on to the next step. Step 5. Place items. This can be done in the middle of the fight, which is why it's the last step. Prioritize putting on items that only give benefit at the start of the round first. These are items like Chalice, Locket, QSS, Shroud, Zeke's, and Zephyr. After that, put items on your frontline, then your carry. Also, one thing I will note with items is that you should already have made these from components into full items. It can be difficult to make items in the middle of the round as the units move around, and misclicking and placing components on the wrong champions can lead to game-losing disaster. Lastly, we'll go over some transitions I've done and then analyze them. So in the first one, I've been on a 4-loss streak throughout stage 4, and I want to pivot out of the Divine comp into something else. On the Raptors round, I sell my Chosen so I can get a better one, and I put in the Dusk units instead. I sell some more units that I don't need so I can slow roll and stay above 50 gold to find some more useful units. As soon as the next round starts, I start re-rolling. Here I'm not 100% sure of which units I am keeping, so I don't want to sell just in case I need them. My items lead me towards a Dusk Riven game, as I have decent items for Riven and Jhin. I get offered a decent Chosen with Keeper Cannon, but since I'm rolling through 70 gold, I want to try and get a better one. Here I get offered Vanguard Aatrox. This is good enough to take to make sure that I end up with a useful Chosen. So at this point I've found Sejuani 2-star and Kayn, so I start to put in the units on the board as there are only 10 seconds left. I place items on the champions, but at this point I still want to hit Jhin so I can get good value out of Giant Slayer. I place the rest of my items and sell the units I don't need to make eco. On the next turn I start re-rolling again, since I need to hit Jhin as well as Riven 2-star. I roll to 10 gold as I don't have the gold to hit everything I need, so therefore I need to build up my economy again. Since I'm still relatively healthy, I can stop rolling here. But if I was weaker, then I would have to donkey roll as I can't lose more HP. So in the next turn I take a very bad loss and take 18 damage. Therefore I have to roll now as I want to maintain 2 lives coming into stage 6. I was able to hit Riven 2, and this would stabilize me enough. In the second example, I will go over a slower transition. As you can see here, I am very strong with the Brawler Ashe comp that I was running throughout the mid-game. So I sell my Chosen and then I start rolling a little bit as my comp was starting to fall off, and I also have bad items for this Ashe comp. I hit a Chosen Dusk Riven, so I decide to play that comp from here as my items are very good for it. Since my frontline is still very strong, I don't want to sell any other brawlers just yet, as they will still be stronger than 1-star Vanguards. So I make items and then I keep re-rolling to hit the rest of my comp. Next turn I sell my brawlers to get the extra gold to hit the rest of my comp, as I have the 4 Dusk and 2 Vanguards ready to go. Here I also decide to run Ahri as a carry over Kayn until he is 2-starred. In the third example, I do a half and half transition, meaning I roll a little bit on 4-1 and then roll more on 5-1 to complete my comp. So on the Wolves round, I sell my Keeper Chosen as I know I will be rolling down next turn. I'm still relatively strong, so I am just looking to hit a couple of more 2-stars and a Chosen trait that I can use for stage 4. I hit a lot of great units for Dusk as well as Jhin 2 and Chosen Cassiopeia, so I stop rolling after I hit that and save up so I can roll again on 5-1 to hit the rest of my team. On 5-1 I reroll again. Here I stop again when I'm at around 10 gold, as I don't have the gold to hit Sejuani and Riven 2-star. My HP is fairly high here again, so I can sit here without needing to donkey roll. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, comment down below what video you want me to make next. And if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 1,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coaching from me, then the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.